slides. I'm going to say this first. I might say it again when it comes up. Uh, in the arena program, in the arena session, and in all the prep calls and events, and I encourage you, perfect timing. Mary just dropped right in. You know what Mary's problem is? Let's talk shit about Mary. There we go. You know what Mary's problem is? She's nice. And she's become more kind than nice. But this is not the time to be nice. You're not helping anybody. If somebody is capable of learning how to walk and you carry them because you want to be nice, you are crippling them for the rest of their life. That is the cruelest thing you can do for somebody, in my opinion. And that's how we're built. So it's not the time to be nice. It's the time to be kind. If somebody is not clear, don't be nice to them and say, no, that was pretty good. Tell them you were not clear. And I have to tell you that because I care about you. Okay, so we're not carrying people. We're saying, no, 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 you walk. You can do it, one foot in front of the other. But we're not, everybody suffers if everybody comes here trying to be nice. Be nice beforehand, get to know each other, all that stuff. But when you step into the arena and the prep, uh, it's most people are seeking validation or confirmation bias. And the nice thing to do is to just agree with them so they go away and they still like you. And that's not what we do here. If you want to challenge somebody, challenge somebody. If somebody says, yeah, I think about asking this question, and you don't know what they're asking, tell them it's not clear what you're asking. This is not a good question. And then help them formulate a better one. Okay? So I wanted to knock that out because that is the risk when you start growing these things. And it's really hard because out in the world, sometimes you just have to be nice. So you don't have to you go to the grocery store, you don't want to coach everybody. They're just like, oh yeah, okay, whatever. So you're nice and friendly. Don't do that here. Not nice and friendly. It's not what you do for people that you care about. And if you want them, you should want them to do the same for you while you're here. So the second bit of that is why you're here. Do not expect or ask anyone to be nice to you. Expect kindness. Expect people to tell you the thing that maybe they got to hold up a mirror and you're not going to like it. But that's what we do here. All right. So I think that's all I have to say about that, Andy.
All right, it's wonderful, Nick. Excuse me. And thanks for
Duh.
that. Thanks for the context. I am bummed I did not start recording sooner. So I will start recording now.
Recording in progress.
And welcome, folks, to the arena. It's September 25th, 2024, and we are very excited for this edition as we continue to iterate and optimize these get togethers. You'll start to see some things change. So, off recording, we just had Nick explain a few things. You may hear about them a little bit later about some of those context shifts, but just know it's for us to improve upon the arena to better serve you in creating the results that you would like in your life. All right. So with that said, type a 1 in the chat, folks, if you're excited about the arena today and looking forward to getting started. Type a 1 in the chats just for some participation. And here we go. Nice. Now, is it anybody's first time on the arena? I just want to know right up front. Type a 2 in the chat if it's your first time. I'll take a peek there as I start to share my slides. All right. And as I wait for the chats, it looks like it's not anyone's first time in the arena. So awesome. All OGs and experienced folks here. So I'll breeze through the front of this arena so we can get to the meat and potatoes. All right. So first off, welcome. Super excited to be here. Thank you for being here and spending your time, energy, and just, being a part of this. Something special. And we're super excited for this. So some expectations up front. You guys are not new here, but for those who may be watching this in the future, some context. In the arena, right, or in particular, the Guardian Academy has several different events, has several different, meetings that we do, and each one of those has a different context about it, meaning we operate differently within each different event. So within this context of the arena, just know, we get ultra specific about the language you use. We are also going to hold your feet to the fire, because what we're going to assume, the reason why you're here is you want to create something different in your life. And so we want to help you with that, right? We'll also be fast paced, more than likely. We'll be direct and concise in the language that we use and the conversations that we have. So just know the way that we may support you in being direct and concise is that we may interrupt you in the middle of a conversation to pattern interrupt, because we may notice something that's going on that's a pattern. So just know that those are some expectations up front, right? And just know that we care about you and want to help you create the results that you want. That's the reason why we operate the way we operate within the arena. All right. So how to create maximum value. We've covered this in the past, but two things: participate. And once you participate, also risk. Risk can look like different things for many people. For some, it may be as easy as just saying something when you normally wouldn't, because we like to urge or to encourage you to not discount your contribution to the whole. One little thing you may add may be the tipping point that creates a whole new conversation that people get value out of. So don't discount your contribution and participate. And of course, effective questions. Part of the expectations earlier, we also are going to help you formulate or expect you to formulate effective questions with our support. So what that looks like is if you ask a question that we may feel may be vague, or there might be some inkling that it's not what you're looking to ask, we may ask you to clarify. We may ask you to re-ask the question, or we may ask for just clarification. All right, so there's some things there on effective question asking. Nick, anything you'd like to add before we jump right in? We're blazing through this portion.
Let's do it.
Okay, cool. Now the format of the arena is these acronyms, RADS or RADA. And what they stand for, R is the resource, R stands for resource. What was the source of your idea or the impetus in which you're going to take some action on, right? What did you learn? For some people, they've used Nick's book, Bumpers, as where they found the source of an idea and then decided to take some action. A stands for the action that you took as a result of that source of or that idea that you came across, that resource that you're utilizing. And so in that action, so what did you do, or what are you doing based on what you discovered from the resource? And then your discovery is as a result of implementation of that action, of doing the thing, what did you learn? What did you discover? Right? So off of those three things, your resource, your action, discovery, we'll kind of get we'll get a nice little picture of what you have came across, how you put it into action, how you engage the field, and then what you learned as a result of that. Now from there, this is where the format will deviate. You can now say just, hey, you can see the S for share. I'm just sharing what I learned, I discovered, and this is what a result it was, and I just hope you got value out of it. And then we may have a conversation around that. Or it may be you have an ask, meaning as a result of the process, you discovered some sort of constraint or obstacle, or maybe the path moving forward isn't clear. And that's when we can have a discussion on what we can do. What's the ask? Like, you're looking to solve this issue. What can we do to contribute to helping you solve that issue? So that's the format of the arena. Make sense? Type a 3 in the chat if that makes sense, folks. Just want to go ahead and check my communication here and that it's coming across. All right. Thank you, folks. So as I said, we're blazing through this. Only 11 minutes in and we're into the breakout rooms. So what are these breakout rooms? These breakout rooms are going to do several things. You're going to have a group of people that you're in there with, and you're going to discuss a 6-word update and a case in point. Now, the 6-word update doesn't necessarily have to be around what happened right now. It can be something you discovered and you want to share about it, right? 6-word update is in 6 words, give us an update. And then a case in point is a story and context behind those 6 words. You guys here are pros. For those of you who are watching this and this is your first time learning about it, don't worry. We have some resources around that you can study and learn how to utilize it, but just stick with us for now as you're watching this. And with that said, if you're looking to step into the arena today, bring your RADs or RADA to your breakout group. Have a conversation with them. Tell them this is what I'm looking to present. Now, group members, like Nick mentioned earlier, I'm going to ask that you be kind and not nice to the people who want to present their RADs/RADA. So give them feedback. If it's not on point, have a discussion with them about that. and then help them to refine that. Nick, thoughts on that?
I mean, I said them already. So just to reiterate, this is an opportunity to stress test what you're going to bring to the arena. And it is a very powerful skill to learn. If you have an opportunity, if somebody said, hey, you get 1 hour to sit at lunch with Elon Musk. Well, you're probably gonna get more out of it if you don't go in there like a blubbering idiot and you formulated your thoughts first. And maybe, like what context do I need to provide? Yada, 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 yada. And so it's a version of that. It's whoever, maybe you're not an Elon person, but think if I had a limited time access to pick the brain of one person that ever existed, uh, would I not want to go there with extremely effective questions and would I not want them to answer or help me solve the things I actually need help with? My guess is yes. And so that's what we as a community, that's what you're working on in the breakout rooms is articulate effective question and then also helping others do the same. So they get the most out of all future communications.
Awesome. Love that. Thanks, Nick. And so this breakout will be 20 minutes. We'll open up the rooms here shortly. As we open up the rooms, I'll pause the recording here. We'll continue streaming to YouTube and do what we're going to do then. So utilize this time wisely, folks. Engage with your fellow breakout group members. And I'm looking forward to seeing what you come back with here in 20 minutes. All right. So opening up the breakout rooms in 3, 2, 1. Have fun, guys. We'll see you soon. Here we go.
Get out of here.
So I'm going to pause the recording for the arena here.
Recording stopped.
All right. Cool.
So this is the very first arena that we are streaming live on YouTube, which means if you are one of the people watching, you're not in a breakout room, and that's okay. We're gonna have a little bit of conversation that I hope is valuable to you, and you could also follow along. So what's happening right now, this is the first thing we do in the arena, is we send them out to breakout rooms where sometimes we have 5 people in the arena, sometimes we have 40 people in the arena. We've done sessions with 400 to 500 in workshop style. So we send them out, and for the first thing they're going to do is share a 6-word update. A 6-word update is just taking all the thoughts in your head right now. Maybe you just read a book or you're watching this and you're learning something. It's just intentionally stepping back and trying to articulate a takeaway, an observation, or a lesson in 6 words. Right, that's it. We're just forcing our brain to. I mean, have you ever been to an event or seen a video? But typically, it's like events when everything's all, you're all hyped up. There's music. There's people jumping around, walking on fire, and all that crazy shit. And you're like, wow, I now have everything I need to change my life. So you think that you really understand it, and then you go home and you're like, what the hell am I supposed to do again? Right. And a big reason of that is one, you're influenced by the environment, but 2, you allowed this idea to stay ambiguous. And so just by saying, hey, I learned put Andrew in a breakout room, get him out of here. You say, hey, I learned everything I need to make progress when I get home. I would say, cool, give me the 6-word update. Which means summarize it in 6 words. And it'll force your brain to really go, okay, well, and you're counting, but you're just trying to turn an ambiguous thing into a concise, portable, palatable, repeatable lesson. Then, if you're here and you drop your 6-word updates, even in the chat, if I said, here's a presentation, boom, 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 you're like, wow, that was really good. And you drop your 6-word update, and then 10 other people drop their 6-word updates. What's happening if you choose to do the work is you could actually develop what we call proactive empathy, meaning you and 100 other people just watch the same thing condense it down into 6 words, and you may very well be shocked at the different perspectives. Like, wait a minute. It's like if you watch the Super Bowl and dude makes a sideline catch and drags his toes, and it's under review to see if he caught it in bounds. Half the nation swears he caught it in bounds. They're all watching the same thing, zoomed in, high def. Obviously, it's a catch. The other half of the nation's going, that's obviously not a catch, right? So our perspective, like the lens that we see the world through, is our lens. And our 6-word update will reflect that. Now, when we see 40 other people watch the same thing we just watched, share their 6-word update, if we're open to it, we'll realize how differently people process the same exact thing. And that's really powerful if you have a family, if you engage with people, if you have a business, a family, anywhere where you're engaged with people, just realizing that 100 people can watch the exact same thing. And here's 100 different takeaways. And it's all very concise. So you start developing empathy. You can also go back, watch the same thing again a year later. You ever read a book for a second time and you're like, what the hell? This is a very different book than the first time I read it. Well, it's not, but you're a different human. So you can go back to the same source, watch it, read it, experience it again, make a 6-word update and compare it to the 6-word update you made last time. And it'll highlight how different of a person you are because the source is the same. So you can actually start to see your own progression and the change of perspective. And it only takes 6 words. So if you're watching the stream, I encourage you, when we say, okay, everybody break out, do 6-word updates, or we say, hey, we call on people, what's your 6-word update? I have a pen and paper right here. I would actually formulate the 6-word updates and participate. You don't have a breakout room and people to talk to, but you can still do the 6-word update. Okay. So they start with a 6-word update and then a case in point. And a case in point is just elaborating on the 6-word update. What that does is that allows everybody else. So if I say, here's my 6-word update, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now, let me tell you a short story about how I came to that 6-word update. And they tell you a short story. Again, you are going, wow, interesting. If you're paying attention, you should be interested because people are interesting. I had never thought of that. Like you could say, okay, here's my 6-word update. Boom, 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 boom. Now, where that comes from is I have 2 kids. And like, okay, well, now we're hearing from somebody that has kids. And if you don't have kids, it's a totally different perspective. Or maybe you have kids, but they're different age, or maybe you have kids who are the same age, and you get to see like, I learned this concept 6 months ago. I never thought to apply it to my family. So there's a tremendous value in just seeing somebody apply something you already know in one domain, but you're missing it in another one. So all these things come together to create the first part of the arena experience, and you can recreate that at home if you want to. You can have your business partners, employees, clients, family members watch this with you, and you can do the exercises together. Now, what's going to happen when they come back is they're going to go arena session, and I want to make sure I have time to let Randy and Joseph jam a little bit. When they come back, we're to the arena session, and the arena session is the RADs or the RADA format. And what we're doing, in my opinion, is we're solving the biggest problem in this industry, this self-development. People want to get better. There's a whole lot of people that want to sound smart. Now, our definition of intelligence is the ability to get what you want. So the whole arena is built on the premise or the idea that intelligence is the ability to get what you want, which means if something improves or increases your ability to get what you want, it has made you more intelligent. If it hasn't, it hasn't. So you may know about a whole bunch of stuff, but if you don't know how to use it right now to get the things you want out of life, I would argue knowing all that stuff doesn't make you more intelligent. What the arena does is the format forces us to take all this stuff we know about and apply it in a way that helps us get what we want so that we increase our intelligence. So that's the whole, if you could come and you could say, hey, Nick, I read your book and it said list the non-negotiables. And I'm just wondering, how many non-negotiables should I have? I'm going to say, have you made your list yet? Well, no, we'll do that. Well, how many non-negotiables should I have? However many are on your list. Right? You see the difference between originally you're seeking to know about something, whether or not it's relevant to you. You might have 3 non-negotiables. You might have 10. I don't know. Nobody does. It's unique to you. So if you came to the arena, I would say go make your list. And after you make your list, come back and we'll have the next conversation. And that conversation is based on real data that you collected in your context, not some thing I told you should happen. So that's the arena structure. You'll see people come and they say, here's the resource. I read this book. I took this action. Here's what happened. What should I do next? Or is there a way I could do it better? Or I just wanted to share that with everybody else so they could learn from me. The important thing is what's being taught or what's being experienced is do something, get the data, then do the next thing. It's micro stepping. It's all the stuff that we call engaging the field. So if you want to learn the process, you can actually go to engagethefield.com and either get on the wait list or buy the handbook. We actually have a handbook that shows you how to implement stuff. For any program you've ever been a part of, this process will help you get more out of the program, the coach, the consultant, the resources. So go to engagethefield.com if you want to check it out, or just keep hanging out on YouTube, or if you're catching this replay, then you have a replay so you can watch as many times as you want. So Joseph, Randy, out of curiosity, we've done this for a couple months now. The feedback I get is incredibly positive. We have a number of coaches, consultants, service providers. I would say the most prominent one is probably Chris Voss, who wrote the book Never Split the Difference. The Golden Swan Alliance built right on top of the arena. It was like, okay, more coaching programs, but the arena provides this, like, it's the only structure I've ever seen. It's an implementation structure. It's stop learning about shit to do. How do you actually implement the stuff you already know? So we've gotten great feedback from coaches. We have companies that build on top of the arena or integrate the arena. They basically said, I think Laurel Portier is one of them. They basically said, being part of the arena makes my program better. Now, Joseph, Randy, I'm curious. I don't know how much time we have, but your perspective. What's been your experience being on this side of it? Some of the unique benefits of the arena, and then maybe some for those that don't want to join the arena or they're not able to right now. What are the things that we do that they could observe that they could do at home or on their own without necessarily having to join?
I love that. Thanks, Nick. I'll answer the first part, and then Joseph, I'm sure, will chime in. We have about 8 minutes in this segment before we bring him back. But I think one of the biggest things I've seen is definitely the implementation part, which we call engaging the field. So I've had the opportunity to be a part of many different personal development programs, help develop quite a few. And we see people who come back every single year and they have incremental changes. Though, like, they come back and they keep learning the same thing over and over again. Meaning they say, I thought I learned this already. It was what some of the conversations they would have. And I think what's the cool thing about the arena is that there's not a whole bunch of stuff that we continually have them learn over and over again or present to them. We have them find their own resource, so they're self-sufficient in that way, and then they can apply it, and then they get their own feedback from their own environment versus us telling them what it should look like. Because, as you say, Nick, right? Like, their data is the one that's the most important because it's their data. And so I really appreciate the fact that people have a format to take what they've learned or take what they're studying, apply it with an action, and then take the discoveries to develop an actual learning of the entire experience. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I can add on to that. Everyone I've talked to who's come in and has also mirrored my observation that everyone I've talked to has described essentially a sense of like, I guess what visually makes sense to me is this like massive shift in momentum for themselves. It's like compared to anything else that they've done, like, yeah, you might go into another program and start learning stuff and start kind of doing stuff. But you come in here and there's not like a lot of information. It's just like, it's like the visual that comes to my head is you're walking through an airport and you step on one of those like walking conveyor belts and you're just kind of walking along and all of a sudden you're just like, whoa. Like you once you engage, the interesting thing is it doesn't have to be a lot. Like you just go through the process to engage and learn and reflect, and it's almost impossible for it to not have some significant forward momentum on your life. It might not be the way you think it is, and I think that's part of the magic of it all. Is when you start doing that forward momentum, you start to discover, oh, what do I really care about? What is really important to me? And that is something that is hard to, because I'm always thinking about, well, how do we talk about this to people aren't in it yet? It's like hard to describe that. It's like hard to describe the feeling of like this sudden shift of what happens when you start knocking out your most immediate constraints, or even not even knocking them out, just like starting to address them, starting to look at what really matters in the present and making those changes. So that's the kind of overall sense that I've seen from people who've come in.
Yeah, it's my observation is similar, and the realization is people come in and they tell me all the time, I'm quitting all my programs now, because they learned that knowing about stuff doesn't help them at all. It helps them sound smart, but throughout, when you go through school and jobs and your friend circles, we forget that we have been trained to fit in and to sound smart and to look smart and to do valid things. There's not a whole lot of training out until you're like, okay, now you're an adult, go take live fire, good luck. Up to that point, you've been taught how to make valid points. You've been taught how to get the right answers. You've been taught how to do all those things that are dogmatic in the sense that there is a right answer on a test. Out in the real world, there is no right answer. We have no idea what's going to happen. COVID happens. What do we do? So it's just kind of tapping back into the child. As a child, if you watch children, they're so curious. And they're like, I wonder how high I can stack these marshmallows. And they don't go ask somebody, and they don't go Google it, and they don't pull out their calculator and do math. They just stack marshmallows. And if you tell me, if one person Googles it, another person pulls out the calculator and says, well, based on the aerodynamics of, and gravity, and then you got this kid who's just stacking marshmallows. The person with the calculator goes, yeah, probably about 11 and a half. Okay. The person that Google says 10 on average. Okay. This kid goes, I stacked, let's see, 13. Who is the smartest person with the best answer in that group? With evidence. The only one with their own evidence is the kid that stacked the damn marshmallows. And so we're just getting back into like, okay, we should be able to get about 10 maybe based on Google, but that is not true for me right now. If I can only stack 6, it doesn't matter what Google says. I can only stack 6, and I have to figure out how to, live my life knowing I can only stack 6 marshmallows. If I can stack 13, it doesn't matter that Google says you can only stack 6 or 10 or whatever, because I stack 13. And that is true for me in my context. Maybe I'm unusually gifted at stacking marshmallows. And if that's the case, then I'm operating off a different set of data. If you're 7 feet tall, you have a different set of data you're working from than somebody that's 5'6". especially if you both want to go to the NBA. So that we're just trying to tap back into like, okay, averages are fine and guesses are fine. And on average, people make this much. That's all useful in some way, but none of it's nearly as useful as the data that you got on your own. Now, similarly, if you said, imagine you're sitting in a car and it's pitch black, you can't see anything, which is a lot like when you start a business. You know, it's like now you could pull out a map. You say, all right, so it should be straight for about a mile, and there's a left turn. Okay, that's a good ballpark estimate, but I'm not driving in the pitch black a mile, especially not at a high speed. I'm going to turn my headlights on. That's the first thing I'm going to do. Right. So sometimes people get so stuck on, hey, what should I do? Hey, what's going to happen? Hey, when do I turn? Hey, am I going the right? It's like, have you even turned your own headlights on yet? Turn the headlight on. Now, headlight shows you 3 feet in front of you, let's say. Okay. So you're going to say, all right, so how long should I drive straight for and when should I turn? I'm going to say drive 3 feet forward. And driving 3 feet forward will illuminate the next 3 feet. Well, okay, but then when do I turn? Well, drive 3 feet forward and we'll see if there's a turn there. If there's not a turn there, we're not turning. And that's kind of the whole, like, you see how people get, okay, and then what? And then what? And then what? It's like, that's all a guess. We're guessing what's out there in the darkness. And it's fine if you want to have like a ballpark idea to set expectations. But what we really want to do in this scenario, let's say one person is like, hey, don't worry, I know what to do. Just don't even turn your headlights on. It doesn't matter. Just hit the gas, count to 5. And when you hit 5, take a left turn. Next person says, yeah, so you're going to go forward for 3 minutes. And on the 3-minute mark, take a left turn. And the third person says, yeah, just drive 3 feet forward. And then drive 3 feet again. And then drive 3 feet again. Which one has the highest probability of not dying? Right? But we hire coaches and or we read books and we're trying to do the, all right, cool. This is what's going to happen. And when it doesn't work out that way, you act like, oh my God, I got scammed or nothing works or something's wrong with me. It's like, well, all you had to do is drive 3 feet and then 3 feet and then 3 feet. And you would have known ahead of time before you hit the brick wall or drove off a cliff. So, right, the arena is a version of that where it's like, well, I think we're going to have smooth sailing for the next 20 miles. Like maybe. Prove it. Just make an assumption and go with it. So we got everybody back from breakout rooms. Welcome. That's the spiel on the arena for anybody that catches this replay or is watching live. I encourage you to participate from home if you're not here. All right.
All right. Thanks, Nick. And I'm going to restart the recording here because we got everybody back from the breakout room.
Recording in progress.
And folks, welcome back. We just were jamming here while you guys were in your breakout rooms. Me, Nick, and Joseph were just chatting a bit more about the arena itself. So if you want to hear what he was talking about, feel free to check that YouTube link he dropped in the chat. You can kind of scroll back later on and watch that portion. It's pretty cool. And it's a great way, too, if you have anyone you want to introduce to the arena. I think it was a pretty effective way to explain what it is. Because as you know, it may be kind of difficult to explain, what the arena is in so many words. All right. So how was your breakout rooms, folks? Drop it in the chat. Did you guys have some fun? Did you guys meet some cool people? Did you get to know people better that you already knew beforehand? Drop it in the chat. How was your breakout room experience? I'll pause and wait for the response. Fantastic. Marina says fun stuff. Says Scott. Great, says Frederick. Cool. Excellent. Thanks, Bree. All right. Awesome, says Elise. Awesome. Cool. And we have some folks here. What's up, Joey? My man. All right. So this is what we just did. Let me go ahead and share my screen again. We just went through this inside of the breakout rooms. I know a few of you joined us a bit later, though inside of the breakout rooms, you crafted or shared a 6-word update and a case in points. If you're looking to step into the arena, you brought what you're looking to bring to your breakout group, and then your group members possibly gave you some feedback on how that communication was. And it was 20 minutes that we had this for. Okay? And so it is time for us to step into the arena. And just a reminder, feel free to take a screenshot of this. This is the format we're going to be following. A lot of you here are OGs, so you're familiar with the format. But for those watching the recording, this is what you're going to hear reference to as they step into the arena, right? So, with that said, who would like to step into the arena? Go ahead and raise your virtual hand, type it in the chats, send a smoke signal to Joseph, whatever you want to do to let us know that you would like to step into the arena. Who'd like to go first? Ooh, I got a thumbs up. Oh, thumbs up was from.
I say somebody's got to break the seal.
Who would like to give the gift of everyone else going second? How about
Ooh,
that?
Emma says she can't find the hand. Emma said me. All right, Emma, what's up?
Keep your hands up. I saw some hands go up, and then you called on somebody, and they're like, "Never mind." Keep your hands up so we can see them. Do it virtually though, not. Or you just hold your hand up. That's fine. We'll call on you last. It's like a test of fortitude.
I love it. All right, Emma.
Okay.
So Rads or Rada, go for it.
Okay, I couldn't find the hand. I don't know why. Okay, so my 6-word update is two enemies: self-doubt and overwhelm. And the case and point is I have experienced a lot of self-doubt and overwhelm, and my patience and trust in myself is being tested daily. That's how I feel. The resource is I'm using the human nature mentalities, the two minds, the human mindset and champion's mind. The action that I did is I wrote a letter to myself to remind me of the two minds. And I discovered that that this struggle is not going to go away, that the human mindset is a default, so I will have to deal with that. And and that in order for that I have to consciously, that's something that now I understand, that I have to consciously apply the champion's mind to be disciplined and use that champion's mind. So the question is, now that I have this insight that fear and the desire to build my business will not go away, that I have to deal with them, what's the next smallest step that I could take?
Well done. Well done. That was it was concise. And so the first person always gets a little bit extra off script. As a thank you for giving everybody else the gift of going second. So the resource is human nature mentalities. And if you don't have access to human nature mentalities, we'll get it to you. So there's a reminder, that's how the arena works. When somebody brings something up and they share a resource and how they used it, we unlock that resource for everyone else. So the more that everybody else shares, the more free shit everybody else gets. Okay. So you wrote a letter to yourself. Read it, obviously, frequently. And I think you're correct in that it never goes away. So there's no fix your mindset, bro. Like, that's not a real thing. It's make a conscious decision to come from this mindset instead of this one, and it never goes away. However, you can make it easier. I'll give you 2 ways to make it easier. And then what I recommend is you implement them, practice them, and then you come to the next arena and you tell us what happened, and then we go from there. So anybody watching for the first time, that's how it works. You do something, we give you another thing to do. You do something, so we're never stuck in mental masturbation mode where we're just talking about all the cool stuff you could do. First, I just learned this yesterday from Dan Sullivan. And if you don't know Dan Sullivan, he's a phenomenal coach. He said he got really interested in teen suicide and trying to prevent it. And then he asked, do you know which teens are the most likely to commit suicide? The winners, the valedictorians, the varsity quarterback. Highest likelihood. Why? His hunch is that they have done everything everyone else wanted them to do and they're still unhappy. So they mistakenly believe that even if I'm successful, I'm unhappy. What's the point? Another way to think about that, and that was what he told me and his hunch. I don't have any scientific proof of that, but it makes sense to me, is you measure yourself. So you were here and then you came this far, but you're measuring yourself against somebody else's ideal, which is over here. And the doubt creeps in when you look at the gap between who you are and where you are and what everybody else in the world has told you you should do by now at this age for somebody like you, your potential, all these words people throw around. So looking at that, it's like, wow, that's how far I have to go. I doubt I can make it. Am I good enough? Do I have enough water? Did I pack enough snacks? Like, that's where doubt comes from. If you can learn to instead turn around and look at how far you've come, right? So anytime you're like, oh gosh, I don't know if I can do that, catch yourself, turn around and look at what you've already done. Because if you're here and you're showing up and you're participating, you've made progress in your life. So there's evidence that you can make progress, and that's the only evidence you need. The amount of progress is just a function of time. Don't worry about the amount of progress, in my opinion. Okay? So that's the first one. And there's a book called The Gap and the Gain that actually talks about this. Is everybody's looking at the gap, and all they have to do is turn around and look at the gain, and it'll shift them from anxiety and doubt to confidence and belief in themselves. And so it's just a matter of look how far you have to go still, or look how far you came. Right? How far you have to go, human mindset. How far you came, champion's mind. The second one is micro step, just like you're doing here. Just showing up to the arena like this, you will build your confidence, most likely, because every time you show up and say, hey, I did this and I realized this, and we're all nodding our head and going, great, here's the next thing. That is another piece of evidence that you can do it. You just stack evidence. That's why we like micro stepping and engaging the field. If you take a huge leap and you go from here to here, as far as we know, it was luck. But if you go step, 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 that is evidence, 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 evidence of capability. So take smaller steps, pay very close attention. You already take small steps. We just don't always realize it, right? It's like, it's really easy. Step one, build a house. Like, okay, well, building a house has thousands of steps. So it's not actually one step. So in your brain, break down what you're already doing to the smallest step possible, because each thing that you did successfully is evidence that you can do things successfully. Right. So hopefully that makes sense, where you just lay down the evidence, and evidence of your success that you discover, not that I tell you. Like, you ever had somebody be like, you should be proud of that? And you're like, oh yeah, I probably should, but I'm not. So I can't tell you to be proud of something. But if I were you, what I would do between now and the next arena is I would look for ways to give yourself evidence to be proud of yourself. And confidence is built because you don't have to convince anybody that you're a winner. You have a trail of evidence behind you. And when in doubt, you can always look at the evidence again. Does that make sense?
Yes, thank you.
Yep. Nicely done. Randy, you pick the order.
Awesome. I will go in. Yes. Okay. I'll pick the order. And thanks for the conversation in the chat, folks. Really appreciate that. And Frederick, that's pretty cool too. Good stuff. Mary, what is going on? She was going to hold her hand up for the next 45 minutes, Nick, but she found the digital button. So what's up, Mary?
Yeah. How's it going, guys? Okay. So do you guys want the 6-word update with the RADs, errata, or just the RADs?
Just fire off a 6-word update because
Okay.
6-word updates benefit everybody.
Absolutely. Hard is the cost of admission. And okay, so my RADs, or actually it'll be errata. The resource is the rear view mirror. The action that I took is that I deployed the rear view mirror in a coaching session that I had. The discovery was that I was able to feel more relief from having these expectations of myself that I need to know everything, to holding a mirror to someone and having them look at, what would be best for them looking backwards. And the ask is, how do I make a rear view mirror, like looking in the rear view mirror, a habit for myself?
Great question. Off the top of my head, prompts. Okay. So prompts. So you can easily say whether it's daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly. These are the kinds of things that if you try to do them daily, they can get overwhelming, So the frequency is up to you and your personality. You can use the review mirror. You can say, what have I tried to do in the past and what frequencies worked for me? So you see, there's a prompt. Use a review mirror. So I would build prompts, which is just until it becomes natural. Generally, what is the habit thing? It's like prompt, stimulus. The point is prompt is one of them. So anytime you catch yourself thinking, it would be, here's my most immediate constraint. That's where we always want to start. But even if you're not there, you just want to use a prompt. Review mirror is one of the prompts that we use when we don't know what to do. We say, what would I like more of? What would I like less of? What would I like to happen more? Any question like that. The very first thing we want to train ourselves to do is stop. Say, I would really like to get more clients. Well, have you gotten clients before? Yes. Well, how did you get them? And so it's just that stop and saying, okay, I'm looking for more of something or less of something or whatever. Have I had the thing that I want in the past? If yes, use a rearview mirror. If no, okay, you got to come up with something new. Mm-hmm. So to me, it's just prompts. It's just remembering. You're going to forget sometimes. A week later, you'll be like, shit, I forgot to do the rearview mirror. That's okay. Because the next concept that I think is really important with something like this is raise the floor. And what that would mean is that you never, similar to human champion mindset, you never fix it. You never solve. There's nothing in your life. Let me back up. Anybody ever been like, damn it, I thought I was over this. I thought this was never going to happen again. Well, you're delusional. So that's on you. Nothing ever goes away forever. But if it happens less frequently, we're making progress. If it lasts half as long, so maybe you get mad at your spouse for stupid stuff and you argue for 3 weeks and then finally you get over it. Well, and that happens every month. Well, if it doesn't happen for 3 months and you make the mistake of thinking, I thought it was over with. Well, that's on you for having obnoxious expectations. But then it happens. And it's very hard to do because you're frustrated. But we want to stop and say, well, shit. It happened. It took 3 months for this to happen again. It used to be every month. That's progress. We're raising the floor. Then maybe we used to argue for 3 weeks, and this time we only argued for 1.5. So you extrapolate that out, and you get months and months and months of your relationship back every year. So part of it is just that measurement, and realizing that we want to build a prompt. We want to use this tool as often as possible. And if we forget, it's okay. And if we're forgetting less frequently, then we're moving in the right direction. It is a relative improvement. And as a human, that's all we can do is improve relative to where we are now. Does that make sense?
That's great. Thank you.
Cool. So build a prompt, try it, and then bring that to the next arena if that is the limit. If something else pops up, we'll talk about that.
Thanks.
Appreciate it, Mary. All right, Marina, what's up?
I can give you my update and stuff, but that just raised a question. Which kind of breaks the format. But the 6-word update results matter more than time spent. Case in point, I scheduled work for the day for a specific task. It was done sooner than the allotted time, and so I stopped because I had achieved the result. And then for the RADA, the resource was Nick's challenge to me last time to explore whether it was busy or whether the busyness was about not being punished versus the fact that a reward was not being issued for a result. The action applied, I have been thinking about that every day. The mindset shift from being busy and what kind of person do I want to be known for? And people always say that I'm busy. I don't want to be known for that. So every day, the action that I'm taking is saying, what result will I have by the end of the day? And having it a yes, no thing, like either it's done or not. The discovery stress is reducing. And the ask on that, I was going to say, where do I go from here? But what I really want to ask is something that relates to the previous question, the previous comments from Mary. Can I do that?
Technically no, but go ahead.
Okay. So you said about raising the floor and shortening the time between negative events. How can you use that to reduce the time in the Valley of Despair? Like, you know how you have that, was it you that made the diagram last time?
Yeah, so okay. So for if anybody's wondering if it's your first time, I share the resource so you have context. So this is my advice to her. You have context from her, and you can also go read the source, and you can start thinking like, why was the advice to her different than the advice to me? Because that happens. So the first one is, yeah. So the next step, it's what I call the velocity method. And while I don't have it, I have the rights to it. So maybe I'll rebuild it for you. Are you ready for this? It's going to be like a fire hose to the face, probably cause more questions, but just try it with whatever you take away from this. So you're familiar with the Fibonacci sequence?
Yes.
Okay. So we're going to skip the first, we're going to bastardize a little bit, and we're going to say, we're going to skip the 1, and we're going to say 2, 3, 5, 8, 13. Right? That's the first minus the 1. That's the first numbers in the Fibonacci sequence. The reason being, if I said, okay, Marina, is this going to take you 90 minutes or 95 minutes? The brain it has a really hard time discerning between 95 minutes and 96 minutes. Right? If I said, is on a scale of 1 to 10, what is your pain? You might say a 7, but the brain doesn't really know the difference between a 6 and a 7 and a 6 and a 7 and an 8. So the brain's not good at estimating like on a scale of 1 to 10 or 1 to 100. It is far more efficient identifying, because it's relative, identifying, oh, well, that's extra small, medium, large. We're much better at that. Okay. So when you have a task, build funnel, assign it 2, a 3, a 5, an 8, or a 13. Okay? It's gonna be different for everyone. Is that a extra large task, or is that a really small task? And it might take a couple of tries to figure it out, right? So you're like, oh, I thought it was a 5, but that shit's a 13. Okay, because that's your skill set. And make 10 phone calls might be a 1 for one person and a 13 for someone else because they have these huge mental. So it's unique to you. You do that for like a week or 2. And then you say, once you have a handle on, I think I got the small, medium, large part right, add them up. So you say, okay, so this week I got 42 total points done.
Oh.
You can raise the floor that way.
Oh.
And it is entirely on what you got done based on your skill set and your ability to complete these things. You can also start projecting into the future. What can you expect to get done reliably next week, whatever your average has been? Does that make sense?
Oh, that's brilliant. Yes.
So,
Yeah.
you can go more detail into that. We actually do that with whole teams. So each person, we know how much we can reliably give them and not miss deadlines. And you could very well get more points per week with less hours per week in a way that's quantifiable that you can look at it.
Mhm.
Say, yeah, I've clearly gotten more efficient. I'm getting more done. Who cares how much time I'm spending?
Mhm.
And it's just so that's called the velocity method. We built it years ago. So I'll
That
eventually
is
get around to
great.
refilming all the content on it, but yeah,
That
that's
is amazing because as you get better at things, they're going to actually become smaller numbers.
Yeah.
But that's fine. And then yeah, so it's a scale for yourself. And that's going to keep changing. But then also, once you figure out the average, and if you say, I have no idea, say you have 60, your number is 60 for the week, and you're trying to get a whole bunch of things done, and it adds up to 85, you know that it's impossible. Is that
you know that
kind
it's
of
improbable. Yeah.
improbable?
Yeah.
Yes.
So that's the thing with this kind of stuff. Time optimists is they really struggle with the concept of probabilities, where if let's say you and I did this together for weeks and like we just met and whatever. And it's like, okay, so next week you get 60 total points of work. You good? And you're like, yeah, I could totally do that. Then you come back, you're like, I only got these things done. It's a total of 48 points. It's like, okay, so from now on, we're only giving you 48 points. Yeah, but my kid got sick and I understand. And your kid could get sick again. So we're trying to cut through the time optimism and the guilt because most of your plan that you feel guilty about not getting done was an unreasonable plan to begin with.
Yeah.
Because you don't live in a vacuum and we keep planning as if this week everything's going to go exactly as planned. And we just ignore like the last 30 years of our life where that's never happened before. So this is a quantifiable way to say, I know you think you can do 60, but you only did 48. So next week, only do 48. And if you do 48,
Yes.
then
Well, and then it helps prioritize, right? Because then if you know you can only do 48,
That's
you know
why
the
we built
point
it.
value of the things.
That's why
And
we
then
built
you
it
can,
so that an entire team of people
Oh.
could prioritize. Yeah.
okay, I'm going to do that. I'll let you
Yep.
know how it goes next time.
And then your question about what was your question about Mary's thing?
Just using the raise the floor to reduce the time in the valley of despair. When you're all
Yeah.
happy because you think you know everything, and then you learn a bunch of stuff, and then you realize you know nothing. So then you're stuck in I feel like I'm just coming out of the valley, and then as you were saying, like minimizing, this isn't fights with my spouse. This is essentially like mental health with myself, kind of realizing that it was triggered by a huge knowledge gap because I just went into a huge intense learning phase.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you shorten that?
Yeah. So for me, it's understanding, and I can tell you what works for me. And I've talked to other people. Stephen Kotler. Do you know Stephen Kotler?
Mm,
He's like the world's #1 expert on flow. So he was
Oh,
at the
okay.
office. Yeah, he was at the office yesterday. And this is what he said. He said, I got really deep into psychology and it helped me. He had Lyme disease and all this stuff. So he got really deep into psychology and it helped me. And I was like, I'm going to help all these other people. And I fucked up all their lives. He's like, and I became a neuroscientist because I realized psychologists do more harm than good because they discover what works for a segment of people or for themselves and then try to shove it down everybody else's throat. And that then the Dunning-Kruger thing creeps in because
Mhm.
you're like, what the hell's going on? So one way to get ahead of that is to preface both in your mind and when you verbalize stuff that I could tell you what works for me. If you're always look at the arena, if you're always engaged in the field, you should have no doubt because if you did this and this happened, that's a fact. If you go on, you give me $10,000, I guarantee that if you do this, this will happen for you too. That's where the slippery slope is. So if you maintain curiosity, understand that you're familiar with the concept of the black swan,
Yes.
that just comes from the fact that every swan you've ever seen is white, and you mistakenly build your worldview on all swans must be white. One black swan in existence destroys the foundation in which you built all your beliefs. That's why it's called a black swan. And so, just working, in my opinion, just working on being non-dogmatic and understanding that I don't know what's going on. Nobody knows what's going on. The reality is,
Mhm.
if I don't have the data for myself, I don't know what's going on. But we still have to function in the world. People will still ask us for advice. We can still help them. We just, in my opinion, come from a place of I can tell you what works for me. I can share you some examples. So it's the certainty, I think, that makes the Dunning-Kruger valley deeper than it needs to be. When you hold on to things that you
Oh.
thought you knew, so you were so certain that you knew so much, and then you realize you didn't. Whereas if you went into it going, this is what
Oh.
I've experienced, but I don't know that much, and then you learn a bunch of stuff, you'd be like, yeah, that makes sense. Exactly what I thought. So it's the
So
dogmatic
just
oriented.
framing the learning.
Yeah, and just understanding, in my opinion, just understanding that you ever seen a TV show or a movie,
Mhm.
and it's like from this woman's point of view, and she's dating somebody, and they're focused on her, and you're like, this guy is such an asshole.
Yeah.
And then they zoom over and they show you his context, and you're like, oh wow, he's really doing the best he can. I really hope that she doesn't do anything drastic because he's not, like, oh, please don't do anything drastic because you don't have all the. And then she does something drastic. You're like, oh, why don't you just wait? We see that and it makes sense to us. And then in our world, we act as if all these other things don't exist. So just acknowledging that what you know for certain may not be for certain. Just acknowledging that makes the Dunning-Kruger thing way less extreme because you went into it from the beginning understanding there are things that I don't understand.
Rather than thinking, oh my goodness, I have all this to learn. I'm never gonna like, how am I gonna incorporate all of this? And you're just saying,
Yeah.
I'll never learn it all. It's okay. I can be curious about this
I
moving
only have to
forward.
learn what is relevant to me getting what I want out of life. Like, dolphins only sleep with half their brain. It's called unihemispheric sleep. So any given time, half their brain is asleep and the other half is like aware, right? Who the fuck needs to know that? Nobody. So,
Right.
it's just accepting that, like, why? And you can ask Randy and I got John and Ann are here. You can ask them. They'll be like, hey, did you know stuff? I'm like, don't care.
Okay.
But this is stuff you could know. Like, yeah, I don't work with dolphins, so I don't really care how they sleep. Like, so it's just
Right.
it's intellectual security. It's being comfortable with what you know and being comfortable with what you don't know, and being okay that nobody on this planet knows everything.
Mhm.
And the more stuff that you know that you cannot use, it's like if you're
Mhm.
moving and you're only taking your car and you fill that car with shit you don't want, it
Mhm.
squeezes out the shit you do want.
So be
So
more selective.
yeah,
That would
and
be,
just being
yes.
okay with knowing only what you need to know to do the next thing.
Yeah.
So that's my opinion. Is I take the stance that I don't know anything. And I do the best I can to still function in the world, in my role in the world, with not knowing much. And even with that stance, sometimes I still get like, holy shit, I'm an idiot.
Mhm.
Like and so I have two options at that point. Here, I'll give you one more tip for everybody. This is the thing I say the most is people say, how do you not get spun out? How do you not get super depressed? How did you make it through these times or those times? One question, what's the alternative? So you say, how did
Hmm.
you show up in work with so much self-doubt? What was the alternative? Sit
Hmm.
on the couch and eat ice cream? Like, when you really look at what are my choices, it's pretty obvious that there's one choice that is going to help you and there's one choice that's not. So even if you're not over the funk, you still only have two choices, right?
Mhm.
Do what you need to do or don't. And so sometimes it's just helpful to realize when you're at a fork at the road, do nothing and eat ice cream. Do the work even though you have a shit ton of self-doubt. It's a really easy choice.
Mhm.
So sometimes it's just recognizing there's a trade-off. If I'm sitting here doing this, then I'm not doing that. Now, I'm really bummed out that I have all this self-doubt. Which one has a higher probability of digging me out of that hole? Going and doing the work, even though I have self-doubt, or sitting here eating ice cream thinking about my self-doubt? Right. So you can kind of logic your way, even though it's an emotional thing, you can kind of
Mhm.
like, in my experience anyway, you just kind of, there's only a few things you can do. And you can kind of play out what are the consequences of doing those things. And the option, as much as it seems hard and irritating, you don't want to do it. It's clearer than it might seem when you think about it. So that's
Eat ice cream while doing the work.
eat ice cream. Well, yeah, there you go. See, that's innovation.
Yeah.
So hopefully that's
Thank
helpful.
you.
It's just a
Yes.
ongoing.
Yeah,
Nobody.
you never really arrive.
No, if you based on my belief system, which I share with a lot of my closest friends, uh, arrival. Do you know what that would look like? You would turn into a speck of dust and disappear. That is the only thing left. Otherwise, it's challenges.
Yeah.
That is what humanity is. And once there's no more challenges, boom, you're enlightened. And you just become one with the universe. So, yeah, the only arrival is you disappearing.
All
If
right.
you subscribe to that kind of belief, but either way,
So what I'm hearing is Fibonacci to assign task numbers, calculate your points. And when I'm feeling the knowledge gap and heading into that despair, always ask, what's the alternative? And see if I can get out sooner.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah. What are my choices? Get up and work or don't? Well, what do I want out of life? I want X. Getting up and working or sitting around doing nothing? Which one's more likely? Which one has a higher probability of getting me what I want out of life? You can turn it into a fairly logical decision. It won't be any more enjoyable. I'm not saying you can change the way you feel about it, but you can get down to a pretty straightforward. Now I'll speak to this really quick, and then Joseph will go, and then we'll wrap up the arena. The thing to consider with all this is people don't like failure. Right? So it's one of the reasons we don't microstep. It's one of the reasons we don't get our own data. It's one of those reasons we seek validation from other people. Because we don't like to fail. The concept of anti-fragility, ultimately, the way I process it anyway, is leaning into failure, meaning a bunch of little tiny failures get you the data so you can adapt and fix it. If you avoid failure, it will come get you eventually, and it'll be one catastrophic one. And those are the choices: fail a whole bunch of times in a very small, controlled way, or fail in a catastrophic, potentially deadly way. Right. So Dunning-Kruger is part of it is how do I avoid the self-doubt is I try not to fail because it makes me doubt myself. And it's just shifting it into no. Fail as frequently as you can. Not intentionally, but you have to be willing to do as many things as you can that risk failure. Example is, you guys seen this in California? There's all these little brush fires all the time, and sometimes they get out of control. So they started clearing the brush actively. And those little brush fires, what they were doing is they were ensuring that things didn't build up so much that the fire got out of control. So what happened is there was less frequent fires, but when there was a fire, they couldn't control it. So you've heard of controlled burning. That's a version of, right? What that is saying we're going to let little bad things happen so a catastrophic bad thing doesn't. So you can kind of reshift that from, oh no, fire bad, to no, this little fire is good. You do not want to see what happens if we don't have these little fires. And you can take the same shift to when you try something and it fails. So, oh, failure is bad. No. These little failures are good. Because without them, it's far worse. Hope that makes sense. Joseph, what's up, man?
I just wanted to throw another little perspective on there with the
Absolutely
Valley of
not.
Despair and everything, because I've thought a lot about this. And it's the whole growing trees thing, focusing on the process instead of the outcome. But I've always felt like that whole Mount Stupid that happens before you fall into the valley, I've always felt like that's built up by the focus and the expectation on the outcome. And so you get into something and you're like, this is what's going to happen. This is what's going to happen. And you keep pushing. And eventually you're like, oh shit, I don't know anything. Oh, goddamn. And now you're down here. And for me, when I switched to being like, let me forget about trying to grow the tallest tree and let me just focus on getting better at growing trees, that's when I find the long, slow path out of the Valley of Despair. So I just wanted to throw that in there because I feel like that's been a really helpful perspective for me, is like just enjoying the process of getting better, and the outcome is just an observation, just part of that data of, oh, that's what happened. Oh, okay, cool. Now what?
Yeah, that's great. Remember this. I'm just going to rattle off some random stuff. You don't get to choose if the bases are loaded when you come up to bat. What I mean by that is a lot of the zone of doom is because reality is not meeting expectation, right? All the things you thought were certain turned out not to be certain. So I must be dumb. It's similar to maybe you grew up dreaming about winning, hitting a grand slam in Yankee Stadium. Well, that's not in your control. So after a year or two, it's like, I haven't hit a grand slam. I suck. You could continue to have an expectation like that, hitting a grand slam in front of everybody. Or you could shift to, okay, I'm just going to go back to the process of becoming a great hitter. And that gives you something to focus on that you can measure and do regardless of the outcome. And funny enough, it also increases the probability that you get the outcome because you stopped focusing on it. If you wake up every day and say, how do I just become a better hitter? You have a much higher probability of hitting a game-winning grand slam than if you wake up every day going, I'm going to hit a grand slam. I know it any day now. And so I'm glad Joseph said that because a better answer is probably get back to the process. Just orient toward the process. The outcome is unreliable. I do not agree with it. Outcome is all that matters. That's a really stupid ass statement, in my opinion. One man's opinion. Because the decision-making quadrant, a good decision can have a bad outcome. Randomness happens. And a stupid ass decision can have a good outcome. So if Randy invests in a bunch of real estate let's say Randy and I both stumble upon $1 million. We sell the arena and we have $1 million each. And he's like, yeah, I'm going to invest in this real estate. And here's all the reasons why, really sound reasons. And it makes a whole lot of sense. And I was like, that's cool. Joseph said I could play Russian roulette for $1 million and they'll give me 5 million if I don't die. Like, all right. So COVID hits and Randy loses his ass on his real estate. I pull the trigger and I don't die. I took $1 million, turned it into 5 million. He lost all his money. You think I'm a better decision maker than him? Right? Like that's, so we can't look at strictly the outcome. Outcomes over time, but it's the logic, the reasoning, the evidence. Where does that come from? The process. So in this scenario, I ended up way better off. But Randy made a far better decision. So the process of it's really the examining the process, refining the process, and the outcomes will be what they are. If your process gets better, the outcomes improve. You can't just look at outcomes though. Like, now to add to that, it would be really easy for all of you watching if this scenario played out. It'd be really easy for me to say, you can go get coaching from Randy if you want, but that guy lost all his money. I made 5 million. And it'd be really tempting for you to think that I'm a better decision maker and you should make decisions like me. And pretty soon we're all playing Russian roulette. That's the coaching industry, by the way. Bunch of people that made questionable decisions that it turned out pretty good for them. And then thousands of people that listened to them and lost everything. So logic, reasoning, evidence, process, that'll pull you out of the Dunning-Kruger thing. The more you focus on outcome, anytime you're like, so I got John here. John's in the office. John, what would your Tesla stock be worth if you held on to it? $320 million. He didn't hold on to it. He sold it for like 3 million. How much did you sell your Tesla stock for? Just shy of $6 million. All right. At the time, and I know this because he shared it publicly before, he made the best decision he could have made. There's no regret. Never change. He just said he would never change it. Because he's judging the logic, the reasoning, and the evidence for the decision. And the logic, reasoning, evidence was sound. Randomness happened to run Tesla up 10x more. But he made the right decision. It'd be really easy for somebody else that didn't, and they made more money than him, to convince you they're better decision makers than John is. And it'd be really, or than you are. And then you would start doubting yourself and listening to someone else because of an outcome. I'm very, very, very wary of outcome bias. So, but that'll contribute to Dunning-Kruger. Is anybody you know that you went to like school with, or maybe you're in a group with, and you know that you're just as good, talented, skilled as they are, and you're looking, you're like, how is that bitch making more than me? It doesn't make any sense. I doubt it was probably random. Or she's willing to say stuff you're not, so that's your morals. Right? There's a million reasons people might have had a better outcome than you, and it has nothing to do with your competence. So just acknowledge that. I sold all of my Dogecoin, and then 3 days later, Elon mentioned it. I'm such an idiot. You're not. Look at the logic. You didn't know Elon was going to say some random shit 3 days from now. So does that make sense? Where we're just looking at logic, reasoning, evidence. At the time I made it, it's the best decision I could have made. That's a win, regardless of the outcome. If you make the best decision you can at every moment, and you continue to update your operating system, your decisions get better over time. You start to pull away from.
Coming over for a hug.
All right, let me hug John.
It's hug time. Brother,
You guys want to?
oh, pick it up, Riley.
All right, tell her hello for me.
Bye, John.
See you, everybody. Sending you much love and positive energy.
All right. So for those of you that don't know, John invented, designed, and hand welded the first 100 Model S and Model Ys and 4 GT40s and Humvees. Very good friends with Elon. Was anyway. He has some great Elon stories when they're falling out. So, okay. I hope that's useful. There's a lot. But a good decision can have a poor outcome, and a shitty ass decision can have a positive outcome. And if you just understand that, it'll force you to look a little bit deeper at why did I make this decision? Why did they make this decision? Maybe their logic, reasoning, evidence was better than yours. In which case, you want to learn from the logic, the reason, the evidence, but not the behavior outcome. What led to that behavior? And is there something in there that I could adopt because it'll serve me? That's my spiel. It's my story. I'm sticking to it.
Love it. Did you guys get value out of that? Just type a 4 in the chat. Just wanted to see if, thumbs up physically from Frederick there. Type a 4 in the chat if you got some value out of the conversation. I know I did. I was taking some notes. I also got a bunch of books and movies I'm going to be watching now as a result of Scott's typing. So thanks, Scott. Appreciate that. Love it. Man. And so, Joseph, any statements there, my friend, you'd like to make before I start to close?
I don't think so. I think that's a good note to wrap up on.
Love it. Love it. Well, yeah. So for those of you who are watching this on YouTube, or for whatever, whoever referred you to watch it, check this out, we'd love to, have you be part of these conversations too. So whoever sent you this, figure out how to get here, right? What I'm going to do is this. I'm going to ask for those of you who got value out of this, only if you got value, only do this if you got value. I'm going to ask that you drop a 6-word update from what you pulled out of this conversation into the Guardian Academy Facebook group, the unofficial one, right? The unofficial one we have on Facebook, just so that other people can crowdsource your wisdom. All right. Only do that if you got some value and if you have something to share. I'd love to read it myself. I'm in that group. I'll check it out. All right. And you don't have to do it right now. After the call or whatever you gather your thoughts is fine. And so what I'm going to do is share some additional dates for those of you. So the next arena we have is October 30th. That's a Wednesday, the very last Wednesday of the month, next month, pending any, any schedule changes due to any other obligations we may have. Now, the week before that, the third week of the month, give me take a look here just so I'm making sure I am keeping honest. And Kevin, feel free to correct me here. 1, 2, 3, the 16th of October, we have our arena prep call. And what that is a call to get you ready to step into the arena. So if you watched this for the first time, you saw Emma's presentation, it's very succinct. We worked with her on that, right, Emma? We worked on there to get it succinct and to get it tight and to really get it communicated, right, Emma?
Yes.
Thanks for that confirmation. And she did great, right? So super stoked for how that came out. So thank you, Emma. And so be on that prep call if you would like to get ready to present on this arena itself, on the arena itself on October 30th. Now, as a result of being a part of the arena, we also have live events that are part of the membership. And one of those events coming up is the Grey Wolf Summit. That's what GWS stands for. It's our annual event that we have for the Guardian Academy, November 22nd and 24th in Arizona. And that's going to be pretty awesome. So if you'd like to learn more about that, just reach out to whoever referred you here, or, let us know you're looking to attend. You can RSVP inside of the arena members platform, the part there about the calendar. All right. And so as we wrap up here, folks, I'd just like to ask, who's next, right? Who wants to be next to present in the arena? Let us know. I believe Kevin drops a chat or is dropping a thread. He drops a thread now in the arena platform just to see how people, will react and say they're ready. Or just join the prep call and we can have a discussion there to get you ready for it. As you can see, the ones you presented got some value. Marina, would you agree that you got some value out of stepping into the arena today?
Oh, 100%. Yes.
Right on. That's just according to script. Great job, Marina. Perfect. Just like we rehearsed. All right. With that said, we're going to wrap up here. And Nick, any last words, my friend?
Same old. I don't know why my video's off. Engage the field. That's what the arena is all about. So if you're here with us, awesome. Keep showing up, keep engaging the field. If you are not here with us, you watch the replay or you catch us live stream. Hopefully you see the benefit and the skill, like you could develop the skill of engaging the field. Go out, get the data, challenge the logic, reasoning, evidence, form a hypothesis, and test it so that you can start testing the assumptions that you're making about how things should work and will work. So that's it. Just engage the field with us officially or not. Go do stuff.
Love that. Thanks again to Emma, Mary, Marina, and also Joseph who shared today during the arena. We'll see you on the next one, folks. Love and appreciate you guys. Take care. Bye.